applied and done well. And so we love our Arkansas Tech students. You're well prepared for medical school. You just have to apply yourself. It's here for the taking. You have to apply yourself and stick to it and discipline yourself in your study skills and study habits. Some people sometimes think, well, gosh, I could go to medical school. I mean, I'm not that smart, or I'm not this, or I'm not that, or whatever, or I'm squeamish of blood. Well, you know, some of those things may be true. But I don't think you should dismiss it. I think that if you're sitting here as a freshman or a sophomore or a junior or even a senior for that matter, you haven't made up your mind, you need not rule it out. One of the best ways you can help determine whether or not medicine is for you is another thing that we're looking for in your application to medical school, and that's exposure to patient care, volunteerism in a healthcare setting. How else would you know if you wanted to become a physician? How else would you know what you wanted to do in life if you haven't had some exposure or experience with it, to get a sense or a feeling that you know what you're getting yourself into? So anytime that as you plan to prepare to apply to medical school or for a profession or just to explore whether or not that's for you, I would certainly volunteer in a nursing home or in a hospice or in a hospital or in a clinic or a free clinic or anything along those lines. There may be opportunities here in the Russellville, Polk County area that you can avail yourself to and get involved in volunteerism. There's a lot of things. It doesn't have to be just healthcare, but it can be any number of things to help show that you have the right type of spirit of altruism, that the type of compassion that we want to see in students. How do we measure compassion? We want to see compassion in students as part of the application. You can't put a number on it. So that's why the importance of the things that you've done outside the classroom, the extracurricular things that you're involved in, what you engage in outside schoolwork. Yes, do well in the classroom, but we expect to see that what you've done outside the classroom that defines you. And it's very important, too, as you think about, well, you know, I heard that applying to medical school, they like to see volunteerism, so I'll do this. And it's almost like a checklist. You go through it. I hear this is a good thing to do, so I better do it so it'll look good on my medical school application. Hopefully there's a better reason, a better motivation as to why you do what you do. Hopefully it is because you indeed want to help people. That's still the number one reason that applicants give as to why they want to go to medical school, why they want to pursue a career in medicine. And so one of the things that you'll want to do and want to convey in your application is that not just listing the things that you've done. There will be an opportunity on the AMCAS application when you apply to list the extracurricular things that you've done, the work experiences, the volunteers, and so forth. But it's more important, particularly in your personal statement that you write as a part of your application to medical school, is what did you take away from those experiences? Not just a checklist of things you did. How did it impact you? What life-defining issues did you encounter? How did it just have an impact? Where did you drive a stake in the ground, so to speak, and make a decision that medicine is what you wanted to do with your life? It's more than just coming to your interview at medical school and when they ask the question, why do you want to pursue medicine? And you just sort of say, well, that's just what I always wanted to do. Or, you know, my mama said I would be a good doctor. Or, I've always been good at science or math, so I thought I'd give it a whirl. No, it needs to be a carefully thought out reason and motivation for pursuing medicine. And that's where the exposure to patient care that we've talked about, either in a volunteer setting or a work setting, is so valuable. That helps your application stand out above all the other applicants, or at least in a select group of those who have a good sense of knowing what you're doing. We have a lot of students that have experience as a CNA or emergency medicine technician, or a new one that is developing is serving as a scribe, following physicians around and getting exposed to that patient-physician relationship and getting exposed to the terminology and the care of patients. Anything along those lines is going to be helpful when we try to decide who we should select. With an applicant pool, let's just say last year we had about 320 or so Arkansas residents. Okay? You're going to have some up here at the top, excellent GPAs, MCATs, volunteerism, you know, and you'd think their chances are pretty good, not guaranteed, but pretty good they'd be accepted in medical school. Then you've got some at the bottom where maybe the MCAT's below 20 and no volunteerism and GPA's not that good, and so you think their chances probably aren't that good to get into medical school. The point is, the overwhelming bulk of the applicant pool is in somewhere in the middle, and you're trying to get to the point where you can have your application really comes to life. It gets the person that's reading your application, whether it be your interview letters, whether it be your personal statement, whether it be the report from the pre-med committee, those kinds of things that get someone excited about you as an individual, as a person. Unfortunately, members of the admissions committee, they never have the opportunity to interview you. But they do rely upon the faculty members who interview you, that report to them, they get a sense of who you are. When we read your personal statement, take time, when you get ready to apply to medical school, take time to write your personal statement, write it, rewrite it, draft it, treat it like a thesis. Have someone that you trust be a second set of eyes for you to look it over. After you've written it and rewritten it and you decided this, I think, is what I want, this is how I can best convey my motivation for medicine, of who I am, then lay it aside for a weekend. Then pick it up the next Monday morning and look at it again and make sure that's what you want to say. For goodness sake, don't let there be any distractions in your MCAS application, misspellings, grammatical errors. Because those kinds of distractions in the members of the committee that are looking at your application, they're being distracted by, you know, you didn't take time to proofread your application, or you didn't take the application seriously enough to really look it over before you submitted it. You don't want them to be distracted by looking at those things, but you want them to concentrate on the content of what you're trying to say. We should know a whole lot more about you after we've read your personal statement than we did beforehand. But the truth of the matter, after a number of years of reading hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of personal statements, sometimes we don't know any more about the applicant after we've read their personal statement than before. That's your time to shine. That's your time to say what it is that's on your heart, to display your passion for medicine, but also your compassion for people. The best personal statements are the ones where you've had personal experiences and you can incorporate those personal experiences, those life-defining moments, and who you are and what you want to become, to help convince members of the committee that this is that you should select you. There's 15 members on our admissions committee. There's 2 from each of the 4 federal congressional districts. There's 6 from the faculty and then 1 at large. And so there's 15 sets of eyes that are looking at your application. They look at every application. They read through your file. They read your personal statement. You may wonder, does anybody ever read this stuff? Let me assure you they do. Matter of fact, one of the first things that a lot of members of our committee look at is to get a sense of who you are. Before they look at MCAT and GPAs, they look at your personal statement to try to get a glimpse of who you are and how motivated you are to pursue medicine. And then they can look at all the other things and so forth as well. So your personal statement is extremely important for you to use that opportunity to share who you are and what you want to do as well. So the personal attributes about compassion, about communication skills, the verbal agility that you have. When you come for your interview, you should dress appropriately. We have a few students who come very underdressed for a professional interview. And it shows maybe sometimes a lack of social awareness of what are the expectations that are required for a formal interview. You're not coming to interview with McDonald's or Burger King, but you're coming to interview for medical school. And so dressing appropriately is one thing, and taking on the air of professionalism. We need to see an air of professionalism in the way that you dress, the way you conduct yourself, the picture that you submit on your application for medical school. It is amazing to me, some of the pictures that applicants sometimes will choose to submit as a part of their professional application. We're not asking you to go down to Ola Mills and take a professional picture of that thing, but at least it should be a picture that you're smiling. It is never a good idea to take a picture and submit it as a part of your professional application that was taken at a party. Just not a good idea. It's not a good mix. It's not a good idea to take a picture and there's 3 or 4 people in the picture. Who's the applicant? Or we've had situations where we've had just bizarre things that are, and again, it's laughable to think in looking at that picture, can I picture this person as a professional? Now, you don't want to put so much just in a picture. But again, it goes behind the scenes in that, what were you thinking when you submitted it? Who do you think is looking at your application? 15 members that are in the profession that are trying to determine which of these will be best suited for a career in medicine, that have a social awareness, that do not have blind spots. to know what's going on. We have situations sometimes where a student will come for an interview and they're not really socially aware of what to do. We have situations where I think it's always a good idea when you enter that you greet and shake hands with each of the interviewers. At UAMS, we conduct interviews, team interviews. We have at least 2 interviewers that will interview you, 2 members of the faculty. And sometimes we'll have a 3rd member, which will be a senior medical student that will interview. So you might have 2, you might have 3 interviewers. It's important